Hi, I'm David Orcutt with Winston Properties, and today we're going to talk about 3 things that can burn buyers of boat docks in Granbury. I'm here with Matt
Bartholow with Oasis Boat Docks.
And Matt has helped me out on several properties that we bought or not bought based on Matt's recommendation about what was happening with the boat docks. So we wanted his experience here today to walk us through it. Let's get started.
So first thing you want to look for on your new lakefront property is your retaining wall. So if you see down here, this is what we call a footing. And the footing is a retainer that protects it from the velocity of the waves. And you also want to have some riprap that's kind of stacked up next to it. Helps also alleviate that velocity. Here's another style of retaining wall. We have stones encased in cement and mortar. So this can be a little more decorative than just concrete. I do believe that the straight concrete is more durable though. This is all rebar reinforced, and a lot of this doesn't have deadmen or any back support structure. So this is typically an economic build. So we got some low spots, and corners and joints are always the weak spots. So these are always areas of maintenance. Right here.
Yeah, you can see the cracks.
And especially at combining properties, it becomes the question of who's responsible for what, and we just see a lot of deterioration at property lines. So I'm standing here on a low spot where what'll happen over time is the precipitation will run here and actually wash out from behind your retaining wall. That's a very bad thing. So what you want to do is when you do get these low spots, call somebody out to check it out, make sure everything's safe, keep the soil built up. So that way it's not getting pulled up here and running behind your retaining wall. Second thing, your pilings. See here, this is a gangway piling. And historically, these are going to wear out faster than the rest of your dock because when the waves come through, it's going to backsplash on here and it's going to start the rusting process just over and over throughout the day.
We have good light on this one over here. Can you show us what we're seeing?
Well, you're just seeing a non-galvanized piling that's, heavily rusted, and it's obviously covered in algae, but I mean, it has a shelf life. It doesn't have any protection on it, and over time, especially when the lake levels kind of drop, it gives it a lot of opportunities to rust. So here's another example of pilings that have failed. It's a non-galvanized piling. It's had its time. You can see.
Oh wow, you can see it moving.
Yeah, it's not physically connected anymore. It's completely rusted through.
From here, it looks like it is, but let's get a picture up close in a minute.
Yeah, it's just dark, so it's kind of hard to tell.
View underneath the dock, and you can see as it started rusting and the 2 pieces deteriorated to the point where one piece has slid down onto the other piece and the rust in the middle is gone.
Some realtors are going to tell you that you can get away with sleeving your pilings or encasing them in concrete or even Texas clamps. It's all bogus. So the Texas clamps have been outlawed by the Brazos River Authority, and I could actually point out several docks that are currently collapsed with Texas clamps on it. Texas clamp is, it's just 2 big clamps that go around the deteriorated portion of your pipe, and you got some bolts that bolt it all together. And it's a recipe for disaster, which is why they no longer allow it.
Then the Tahiti house we looked at had some sort of scabbing where a pipe was like welded to it on the side.
So those we call side-by-sides. Those are a better alternative than either encasing in concrete or the Texas clamps.
So Matt, why are we seeing corrosion at the water line?
Well, about 15, 20 years ago, there's a power plant, Possum Kingdom, that shut down. When they shut that down, there was less current coming through here.
Oh, hydroelectric plant.
Yes, the hydroelectric plant. So there's less current coming through here, which changed the alkaline levels and salt levels within this water. And so what the BRA now requires of us when we build new structures is it needs to be a galvanized piling.
What did they use before?
What you see right here, red steel.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon in other lake systems to see that, but for here, it's what you need to succeed. All right, so we covered pilings. Next thing that you're gonna be spending money on your new lake house is going to be your slips. Most of the time, these aren't gonna be properly fitted for your needs. So when we look at this cradle right here, this is probably 2 feet too short for modern PWCs. So
That's personal watercrafts for the non-Granbury people.
A personal watercraft. And obviously this cradle here is not galvanized, so you're seeing the rust and deterioration take place on it.
So about how much longer does that with that degree of rust, about much longer will this one last?
I would say it probably needs service in 8 to 10 years.
Okay, so you got some years on it.
Yeah, you don't have to do something, but I mean, if you're gonna spend the money, you might as well just do it right.
Okay. So I've had problems with getting into a house and the boat lift won't lift the boat I've got.
Okay, so you might have got a heavier boat. Maybe it wasn't properly rated for what you had, but sometimes it's just as simple as your pulleys being too loose. So once this gets under load, a lot of times that can slip. The other issue it can be is, let's say that's a 2,800 pound lift and you roll in with your Malibu that's 6,000 pounds, it just can't lift it.
Yeah.
And so
an example is just a simple runabout ski boat like we can see over here versus a wake surf boat, or a heavier boat than you're gonna see like that.
Yes.
And then tell us about motor size, because that's going to affect it also, right?
Yeah, so if you're going to go through the trouble of any type of modifications or upgrades to your lifts, just do yourself a favor and get a direct drive system. They're rated for 6,500 pounds. They don't have pulleys, so they can't slip, and they're quiet, and they look really good too. And they're hermetically sealed, so there's no maintenance on them like there is on these. And they're a few $100 more than what you would have paid for a modernized version of this anyways.
Okay, so you want the motor to be sized right, you want the cables to be sized right, you need the boat dock itself to be sized right to get a boat all the way in.
Sure,
and wide
there's
enough.
A lot of variables that go into it.
What's the narrowest you would build a boat dock width-wise nowadays?
I mean, pretty much our standard now is 10 feet wide, and that gives you a little bit of wiggle room on both
10
sides.
feet deck to deck, or?
Yeah, it would be deck,
Okay.
deck to deck for the slip, and then the length, 24, 26 is pretty good coverage.
And one thing this dock I noticed is missing is any sort of bumpers on the edges and stuff. So you're gonna have to be a pretty expert guy here, driver, not to hit. I can see my shadow.
Sure.
To hit these. So if you're living on the lake, living on a canal, your boat dock is very important to you. This one here has some issues with it, I think, though. The roof looks pretty new, the shingles, but if you look at the fascia very closely, you can see that it needs to be repainted. Look even more closely, you can see how weathered that wood is. It might actually need to be replaced. Then we get to the decking on the dock, and it is very weathered. A lot of it looks pretty rotten, and if I was gonna buy the house, I would probably replace this entire thing. Going down one more level, you can see how pieces are totally missing of this dock, and they've taken a pier that has been rotted out, and before it went away, they buttressed up and what we call scabbing, scabbed the pipe next to it to give it support. It looks like all 16 of these piers have been scabbed like that, which is a concern. A wake surf boat fully loaded with fuel and people is gonna be about 5,000 pounds. And I'm not sure you want your $80,000 to $100,000 wake surf boat with your family on it having trouble being supported by the pier when the boat's lifted all up here. As you keep going, seawall is very important to us. It looks like it hasn't moved any, but you can see a huge amount of erosion down here. I can see 3 foot into this hole, and you can see gaps all the way along this for about 30 feet. So we gotta get an expert to look at this and decide what to do about it. So we talked about the most important things cost-wise that can burn a buyer when they buy a waterfront property. The maintenance of the seawall, the condition of the pilings, and the weight capabilities and just the maintenance of the lifting system for your boats. So you want to make sure you get that looked at by somebody like Matt with
Oasis Boat Docks.
If they need inspection on their property, what would you do?
Reach out to us by email at hello@oasisdocs.com. Our website's oasisdocs.com, and our phone number is 817-440-6510.
Great, Matt's done great work for me. I know he'll do great work for you. And I'm David Orcutt with Winston Properties. Hit like, hit subscribe, and thank you for your time. If you're looking for a house here in Granbury or want to be on the lake, let me know. I'll give you a hand.